Hold still.
It took years for Jennifer Tucker to walk away from her past.
Curious of who's going to be out there, who I'm going to see.
But this morning, she's getting ready to step back into it. Well, almost.
Trying to find something that covers me up the most, you know what I mean? Rather than going up to the highway and trying to find something that makes me the most noticeable.
Today is a milestone. She's coming face to face with that life. The one that almost took hers. It was only a year ago this 39-year-old mother of 4 had lost all hope of returning home.
I mean, you could technically walk away, but where would you go? Where would you go? Who wants a prostitute in their life? Who wants a prostitute at their place of employment, you know? Where would you go?
Jennifer's 6 years in prostitution started with a choice in 2010.
First started with, you're so pretty.
She met a California man online. His name was B.
Then asked if I would ever relocate.
B promised Jennifer a relationship, a glamorous life overflowing with cash to lift her out of hard times.
What I chose wasn't what it turned out to be. You know, I didn't expect to be somebody's slave.
Her new boyfriend was a pimp. And her new name, Mercedes.
I'd have a title, something like looking for a ringmaster to tame this wild kitty, you know. I'm here to cater to you top to bottom.
On a busy day, she'd taken $2,000 total from 5 to 7 customers. And then her pimp collected every penny. He gave her enough money to pay for her cell phone bill.
Wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, wasn't allowed to look at anybody.
She remembers the first time she disappointed him.
He grabbed me and slammed me up into the mirror because he was pissed that I was out for a whole night and I didn't have any money when I came home. And that's when he said, I'll teach you a lesson. And he put me out on the street for like 15 hours until my feet were bloody before he would pick me up.
But oddly enough, she was used to this life.
That's me when I was little.
You see, Jennifer was molested, abused by her godfather until she was 7.
I would be put in like a basement when I was bad. And that was kind of his way of getting me alone. And that was about 4 or 5 days a week.
So the fall into prostitution wasn't such a big leap.
It just, as sick and as horrible as it felt normal, you know? And it's hard to explain, but you kind of get a sense of comfort on having something that's familiar.
And it's a familiar story to most of the women who are still being sold. Some studies estimate as high as 95% of the people in prostitution were sexually assaulted as children.
If that hadn't ever happened to me, I'm pretty sure that I would have never gotten into that lifestyle.
Even though she wanted to leave that life, the choice to live another slowly disappeared.
Who wants a prostitute for a mom or for a daughter? So, where would you go? Like, I know my dad didn't want a prostitute for a daughter.
Over those 6 years, she'd go through thousands of customers, 3 pimps, and work in 10 states, before a chance meeting with strangers would pave the way for Jennifer to start a new life.
Like, they made me feel cared for, not as a hooker, but as a person, as Jennifer. I think at that moment is when I decided that I was going to get out of the game.
It was May 2015. Jennifer was back in Washington, addicted to heroin and working out of this motel on Pacific Highway.
I was in my Daisy Duke shorts and my thigh-high boots. I'd been working there the whole weekend, and I saw all these people walking by.
Marching with messages.
You know, I'm not for sale. You're worth more than $1, you know. So I saw 2 older ladies, and they said they were raising awareness and also trying to show their support to people that were in the industry. So I started crying.
The women were marching in a Federal Way anti-trafficking group's annual 5K.
I told them, I said, one day I hope I can be in a place where I can walk with you guys. And like, you could do it today. And I was like, no, I'd be a hypocrite today because I know what I'll do tomorrow.
She didn't join them. In fact, she went back to work that same day.
There are people who will undoubtedly say, but you weren't chained to a bed. You could have walked away from it all.
I mean, sometimes physical chains are much easier to break away from than emotional chains. And it was the emotional entrapment that got you.
This survivor didn't leave the business for another 10 months. Even then, it took a policeman to set her free.
Like when I was arrested, the officer said, "Aren't you tired?" And I was tired. I mean, the day before I was arrested, I prayed. I was like, "Take me from this life, God." I really meant I wanted to die. But, he took me from that life and put me in jail. Do you want popcorn?
After a 6-month sentence, she was out.
The hardest part is it's not the being done part. It's just fitting in with normal people and knowing who you were and wondering if they know who you are. Can I get anything started for you ladies?
She had a new job as a barista, a life again with her family, and a deep faith. But how could she live a new life when the customers from her old one were still so close?
I went to a party, a church gathering party, and I saw somebody there with his wife, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable.
Hundreds of her photos and ads were still online, all tied to the same number. She was too afraid to give up.
I'm calling for Mercedes.
Hey, Mercedes.
Hey, Mercedes.
Hey, Mercedes.
Yeah, the guy in the big black truck.
Those are voicemails from old customers, not to mention the hundreds of texts.
It wasn't stopping,
She was stuck,
and it was starting to irritate me.
until one day she decided to deal with it her own way.
And this was my response. What you men don't realize is exactly what you take from the girls in the industry. We lose our pride, our self-worth, we lose our value, and begin to feel like our body is not our own.
That brings us back to that day, where this story started.
Kind of crossing from one life into the other.
Coming face to face with that life, with the walk down Pacific Highway on the other side.
So this is about where it all began. 2 years before, I was in the life and watching them, wishing in the back of my head that one day I could be there, but not really believing that I could. 2 years later, it's actually done. That first goal, I really liked it.
Good job.
Finally crossing the finish line she didn't expect to see.
The walk was like my first step in the fight against human trafficking. It was like the fight against my past, and it was a full circle for me.
Finally connecting with the people who made this all possible.
Good job. I was just saying, it's like the first goal I've ever set out in my life. That's awesome! Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you guys want to make you cry.
Oh, we want to make you cry.
We're happy
It's
here.
good. It's healthy. It's cleansing.
It is.
I managed to not cry all week.
That's all right.
Walking away now with a new mission, to inspire the women who are still trapped.
I've gotten everything that I've lost back and then some. It gives somebody else the strength to fight. To have belief that maybe one day that they can change too.